Okay, so I thought I would give some information on this whole COVID virus situation, kind of put in my 2 cents worth and show you some things. Um, First of all, I'll just say right up front, this is all my opinion. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. Um, all of you that watch my channel know, that I'm a mechanical engineer, but I recently did an MBA in business analytics, and so that's my field of things. And also I guess you could say a former Lyme sufferer, along with a lot of the other co-infections, that ticks carry, that I went through, and came out the other side. So, I have some experience in, a lot of the, what you could call chronic illnesses. So I just thought I would give you kind of some things to think about, some things to look into, in my opinion, and that's all it is. And so what I've done is I don't completely, I guess you could say, trust everything that's out there, as far as what's given out in the media. I'll just leave it at that, or even what's given out by, um, government entities, I guess you could say. So like I said, I just did a lot of work on data analytics and different things. So I've been doing my own digging and my own, I guess you could say, my own graphs, of all this data. So I guess I can show you where I got some of this data, so I got it from, reputable, sources that can be trusted. So one of the software programs that I use is called Tableau, that you can do visualizations and graphs and things like that. And they've got a lot of things on their site about the coronavirus data, that you can kind of do your own graphs and look into your own thing. And a lot of the data that they're using is coming straight from right here, Johns Hopkins University coronavirus data. So, you can access the data there. You can download it on their website. So here's what that looks like. You can download this fairly massive database that pretty much is the whole world data, and you can filter it out, and do your own graphs of how you want things to look, from the data, so it has confirmed cases and deaths, and from countries and states and everything all over the world. So you can update that data every day, so this is from dataworld.com, which is that Johns Hopkins data that I mentioned. And other sources are, the CDC. Every day they update. This hasn't been updated yet today. This is April 10th. This is yesterday's data, cases on the CDC website. So there we got, over 400,000 cases and 14,000 and some deaths. Unfortunately, that's a number that's, you know, it's upsetting to see, that. And so the CDC has, their own reporting here over their own data, and their graph of the trend of the number of cases. So you can look in here and see basically every day how many cases there were, and get that data yourself. And another source, I'm from Pennsylvania, so the Pennsylvania Department of Health has their own website that you can look into the number of cases that are in Pennsylvania. So they have, I think most states are doing this. This is kind of the MO right now, where they'll give you how many cases were tested, positive or negative, and how many deaths, unfortunately. And they break it down into age ranges and how many people are in those age ranges and how many people are hospitalized. And then they have a county count, so every county, they'll have the number of total cases so far, the total number of deaths so far. And I think most states, that's how they're handling this right now, is just kind of doing it by county, and then you can look at a map of how many cases, in a certain county. And so, as we know, around the cities around Philadelphia and over around Pittsburgh, the more populated regions, there's a lot of cases right now. As we all know, there's a lot of cases up in New York, and some of that seems to be coming down into Pennsylvania here. So that's where I'm getting a lot of the data from, is, from those sources. And like I said, I've kind of come up with my own graphs just to look at and play with, just to kind of sort this all out in my own mind. And so I've got a Excel spreadsheet here that I've done that basically has every day the total number of cases, the percent increase from the previous day, the new cases each day, the same thing with deaths, total deaths, and deaths that day, and the percent increase on that day. So this all started, as you can see, back on January 22nd was the first case in the United States, and it's grown since then. And so that's the data. Here we are. This is yesterday's data here. So I kind of came up with my own graphs. This is the total U.S. cases. And I started these graphs around March 1st because that was when the data really started to kind of be significant, I guess you could say. When we first had a few deaths and the number of cases finally started growing pretty quick. Before that, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So you can see this is the total U.S. cases. And for a while there, you can see it was taking what they call an exponential growth curve. It was kind of climbing pretty steep. And over the last, I guess you could say, week or so, it has straightened out some. It's still growing, but it's not continuing to grow so quickly. This is a graph of the percent increase every day. So back early on, because there wasn't a whole lot of cases, it was jumping all over the place. As you can see, the percent increase each day was kind of jumping around if you had a whole lot of cases all of a sudden. And that has finally kind of settled down a little bit, I guess you could say. So what the graph's showing here, if you look at that straight line, that dashed line, that's the general trend of this whole group of data here. From back around March 1st, whenever we really started seeing a lot of cases. And so what that line is the regression, the general trend of what's happening through all this data. And that's the equation right here for that line. So as you can see, basically what that means there, that 1.08, is every day the percent increase in total cases is going down by about 1%. So that's a good trend. That's a good, good thing to see. And as you can see, for a while there, it was jumping all over the place, and that curved line was trying to fit that data into a curve. So it was kind of going wavy and S-shaped, trying to fit that to a curve, and it has finally kind of come down, to it continues to decrease. I guess you could say that's another good sign. So this graph here is kind of a good sign, I guess you could say. And this graph here is just the number of new U.S. cases every day. Again, it started out doing a kind of a quick, almost exponential curve, I guess you could say, and then it kind of flattened out some, and then it's kind of jumped around a lot, you can see there, but the curve that's trying to fit that is starting to level out. And actually, towards the end there, even though we had a couple weird days here, we had some other days that were lower, that curve is also sort of leveling out, and showing a good sign, a good trend. And so this is a graph of new U.S. deaths every day. Same thing. For a while there wasn't much going on. It took a kind of a drastic turn upward, kind of exponential, and then it's done some weird things too. It's, it'll show a good sign and then it'll jump up. It'll show a good sign and jump up again. We're talking about deaths here, so I don't mean to be kind of cold and heartless talking about deaths. It's, any death is a tragedy, but I'm just trying to show the trends, just because I was trying to sort this out in my own mind, and once I started looking at some of this stuff, I thought I would share it with y'all. So again, this thing seems to be, it's still increasing, but not as fast as it was before. And there's been some times where it looked like it was, going the right way, and then it jumps back up. So that's just what that data is showing, and this is just the total deaths. Unfortunately, crazy number. Same thing. It started out slow and all of a sudden went exponential, and then over the last several days, it seems like it's going in a more of a straight line. It's still increasing, but not exponentially, just kind of what they call linear growth. And here is the percent increase in total deaths from the previous day. So again, it's kind of like the cases where I did the percent increase each day. And again, it kind of jumped around a lot for a while there because, early on, it didn't take much, new deaths to make a lot of difference, I guess you could say. But again, I'm showing this trend that's slowly going downwards, not very fast, not as fast as obviously we would like, but the trend is definitely going down very slowly in the number of reported deaths. Again, with the data here each day, the curve that's trying to fit that curve was jumping around like crazy, trying to fit a curve to all that data. It's kind of difficult because it's all over the place for a while there. But again, you can see towards the end, it's going in the right direction. It's going down, and that's a good sign to me too. That unfortunate deaths, the trend is going down. And so that's what I did in Excel, and then in that Tableau software I showed you, I brought in that humongous database of the whole world database from Johns Hopkins, and did a similar thing just to kind of reinforce what I was doing with my own data from the CDC and Pennsylvania websites. And again, it's kind of similar to what I showed you there before. This is US cases total. Did that exponential growth for a while, and then over these last several days here, it's following that straight line. And this is the prediction. This is the actual data that happened already. And then this is the forecast. So this Tableau software can do forecasts, and I won't go into the technicality of that, but it's what's called exponential smoothing is what it does. And so it seems to be following this linear trend and this line the last several days there, and that's what the forecast is doing. Again, it still keeps going up, but it's not going on this exponential line, which would be up here, way worse. And this is the cases per day in the U.S. Again, that's kind of jumped around a lot, just because of how they report cases, and testing takes a while to come back. And it did that quick, growth for a while there, and every once in a while it looks like it's going to level out, and then it jumps back up. But over these last few days here, it definitely has shown a good trend where it's, even though it's still increasing, it's not as fast as it was. It's not even going up exponentially anymore. This curve that's trying to fit that data is actually curving the other way, which is a good sign. So the forecast is going up on this line, which isn't as steep. Again, increasing, but way slower. Same thing with the U.S. deaths, similar concept to what we're showing in the other graphs. Exponential growth, but the last several days of data is going along more this linear line, not as steep. And this is the same thing with Pennsylvania. So similar concept, just lower numbers because it's only Pennsylvania, but it's kind of doing the same thing. Same thing with the deaths in Pennsylvania. It's it's gone up. Not maybe as quickly as it has in the whole country, because it took us a while to, to have as much of a problem here. that's now increasing and spreading, unfortunately. And so yeah, I just thought I would show kind of all that data, of what I've discovered, where it looks like, we're definitely seeing some downward trends. It's too soon to say if that's going to continue. We hope it will, obviously. Even though the numbers are still increasing, there's a good trend in the last week or so of a lot of this data, where it's definitely going down and not increasing as fast. So I just thought I would show that to you and, just give you hopefully some hope, and I know there's a lot of, concern and worry out there, obviously, but I had to kind of wrap my head around this for myself and look, at the data myself, and I just thought I would share that with you. And thanks for watching me ramble on that long.